Welcome to the CSBP Fertilisers Grow Better podcast, sharing knowledge with growers on leading crop nutrition, sustainable agriculture and other issues impacting the agricultural industry.
G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of the CSBP Grow Better podcast. My name's Grey Johnston and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Executive Officer of Safe Farms WA, Maree Gooch. G'day Maree.
Hello Grey, thanks for having us.
Oh look, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're here to talk all things farm safety today on the Grow Better podcast. I guess first can we kick off by getting you to introduce yourself to our listenership and telling us about yourself?
Well, Maree Gooch is my name and I am very proudly the Executive Officer of Safe Farms WA. Safe Farms began in 1994 and it was started by farmers for farmers and is an independent not-for-profit. And very much over that history has provided tools and support to industry. Research, working with Farm Safe Australia. I actually sit on the committee of Farm Safe Australia. I also sit on the board of the APVMA, Ag Pesticide Vet Management Authority. And through my almost 25-year farming career, prior to this role, I thought we were doing things quite well on our farm. We were quality assured across six enterprises and thought we were doing okay. I came into this role in 2015 and thought, oh, crap, I don't know so much about so much. There was a lot of research, there was a lot of information, but no real tools to pick up and run with, or what was available was 15 years old. So Safe Farms had a really good hard look at itself. It used to be called the Farm Safe WA Alliance and sitting underneath Farm Safe Australia, and has remained independent over many years. Every other state has had a similar iteration, but it's been absorbed by something like, say, New South Wales farmers or Victorian farmers, and in WA we have PGA and WA farmers. However, Safe Farms here felt it was important to be independent and remain that. And we work closely with industry. We provide policy and planning guidance, I suppose, to WorkSafe. I sit on a number of different committees here, Work Health and Safety, and again, sort of the Farm Safe Australia committee. And really what that's about is, as a not-for-profit, there's that stewardship and that fine line between providing support to members. There's stewardship to industry who are not members, and also supporting policy and planning at a government level for all the right reasons as well. So that's Safe Farms. Me, yes, almost 25-year farming career, have a lot of broad networks in the ag industry, and I did actually get some strong feedback from a family member saying, you've gone to the dark side, have you, way back in 2015, which was about the
farm safety side.
Well, I think they thought it was WorkSafe. And quite some time ago, WorkSafe had a very different reputation to what they do have now, and I'm very pleased that it's more positive. WorkSafe inspectors are here to keep us safe in the workplace like the police are on the roads, and I think it's important that if anyone has a WorkSafe inspector reach out and say that they'd like to come and do an audit and or an appraisal in the property, that they actually open the door and embrace it for all the right reasons. Because if someone comes in and looks at your farm with fresh eyes and gives you an improvement notice, then they probably noticed something that you've been walking away or alongside for many years. So, what you walk past is what you accept. So that's a very brief history of Safe Farms, and is very proudly the leading not-for-profit offering tools and support to the ag industry in WA.
It's a wonderful history and a wonderful story, yours and that of Safe Farms. If we wind back a little, can you just explain? I guess I'm sure our listeners will be pretty familiar with a lot of the safety risks and issues that there are on farms, but can you touch on the key things that pose risks on West Australian farms and are the cause of injuries?
Statistics show that year on year, tractors, quad bikes, horses and helicopters are the main causes of death. Sadly, in Australia, we lose up to 78 people a year, the average being around 46. And that's 46 families that don't have loved ones to celebrate Christmas or birthdays every year. There have been some changes in the national legislation which came in 2011 over many years and sort of toing and froing. in Western Australia, the Act of 2020, Work Health and Safety Act of 2020 was enacted in March last year, so it took a while to get in. For those listening, it's very important that you are aware of that legislation. Ignorance is not an excuse, and you do need to get up to speed on the legislation. So it's a bit like an overarching umbrella, the legislation, then there's underneath that regulations, underneath that codes of practice. And there are up to 18 pieces of legislation that cross over into farming. So for farmers out there, it's a lot to get your heads around. This is one of the most critical ones. You've probably got your minds around transport and on the roads, and certainly if you're involved in trucking about, escorting and that sort of thing, you've probably got your heads around biosecurity, but I absolutely urge you to get your heads around work health and safety. And there is a lot of free information available through WorkSafe WA, through FarmSafe Australia, on the Safe Farms WA website, and there are other private providers as well. So it doesn't matter what system you use as long as you have a system. Do you have to? Well, it's the first thing that lawyers will ask for to substantiate your safety culture, and that WorkSafe will ask for if there's an accident or a death. And I think it's better if we actually recognise that farmers in Australia, and certainly in Western Australia, are some of the most innovative. We are curious, we are innovative, we are really good at coming up with solutions. And certainly, across Broadacre, which is, where CSBP have a huge impact, I think it's really important to recognise that we do things well. We might just not have done the paperwork. So that's where organisations like Safe Farms can come in and say, here's the templates and the support that you need to show that you're doing all the right things. And if I be bold, I'd say it's about a 70-30. I think there's about 70% of our farming industry doing really good things and have that paperwork in place, if not electronically, one way or another. And there's probably 30% that really could pull their socks up and do better about that.
And what are the key things that distinguish that 30%?
Denial. I didn't need it when I was young, so why would I need it now? It's all BS. Well, it's not. It's legislation. And I think the sooner we embrace and acknowledge that the new legislation has been in place since March of 2022, it's here to stay. Interestingly, the new legislation is not that dissimilar to the legislation that had been in since 1984 prior to that. However, this new legislation does include things like industrial manslaughter. So even more importantly, it's about having a safety system and a safety culture to make sure that you know what you're responsible for and your roles are, but also the people that you work with. And I think probably a key part of that is the new legislation. The key things are you must provide a safe place of work as an employer. That's difficult with different enterprises, different locations, different ages of the people in the business, different attitudes, aptitudes, and also, different machinery and how that goes. And for workers, whether it be paid, volunteer, visitors, family members, unpaid, you really need to be aware of that. As a worker, you must be safe at all times, so you must take responsibility for that. And then as a worker, you must ensure that others around you are safe. So if you see something that's not right, you've got to be brave enough to call it.
And how, as Safe Farms WA, how are you striking the balance between working with the business owner, the business manager, and working with the individual worker? Because you just sort of had a call out to those two groups there that sometimes can be the same and sometimes can be quite distinct.
When I first came into this role, it was very much it's all the employer's fault. If something goes wrong, it's all the employer's fault.
They have a duty of care.
All of that. Ultimately, it's up to the employer to provide a safe place of work. However, it's very important for the workers to understand that they too must be always vigilant for themselves and for everyone that they're working with.
And you touched earlier in your answer about a few of the, idiosyncrasies of the labour market that we have working on farms in Western Australia, a wide range in ages and a wide range in levels of experience, and a wide range in the contractual relationship or otherwise. I mean, a lot of that I assume is due to a lot of family ownership, owner and operatorness. I don't know if that's the right way of framing it, of farming enterprises in WA.
In a word, probably yes. Short answer. However, there's the complexities of all of that. We have different upbringings. We might be new to farming. We might have been brought up on a farm. kids don't actually have much filter when it comes to risk. And my kids certainly got up to a lot more mischief on the farm when their friends were over than they did when they weren't over, and I did too, by the way. So kids don't have a filter, but I think we can grow into that, and we get so used to that's the way we've always done things. That's the way we've always done things, and there's not that stop and check and balance and stop and then act. And I think if we can take a step back and instill that into every generation, wherever they are, then it's important. It's interesting that a number of people in the ag industry have maybe stepped out of ag for a short period of time and then gone into another area, say mining, and then they come back and there's nothing like the strong parameters that mining has. Mining is 30 years on from where probably ag is now in the checks and balances. Interestingly, I noticed that, being a bit candid, that often everybody in the mining company will not get their bonus if there's an accident. So everybody's super vigilant to make sure everybody does the right thing, whereas and there's often more bodies on the ground to do the jobs that are done, whereas in ag often they're mum and dad operations or their family-owned businesses, and the challenges that we face about labour and shortage thereof, or ageing population, or maybe someone that actually doesn't know a lot about farming, and that the complexities of what that all means. The solution of that is to make sure that we understand what our roles and responsibilities are, and then to maybe do an induction. By the way, that's part of that legislation, do an induction, provide training and information. By doing an induction, you actually find out how they think and approach risk. Are they the hare straight to the finish line? Are they the tortoise, slow and steady, wins the race? Ultimately, you want someone in between. But by doing an induction, you actually figure out how they think and how they approach risk, and then make sure that they know how you want things done on your farm.
You touched on a few, risk factors there. We've had a couple of years in certainly in broadacre agriculture in WA where there's been very high levels of production, and therefore you assume activity on farm, but restrictions on the labour market in terms of the number of people who can come into the state to support that activity, and I guess therefore different people who are working on farms than may have otherwise been. Have you seen a particular change in the risk profile over that last couple of years?
Anecdotally, yes. I think certainly with the last few big seasons, the labour force has been stretched, and it came out in the early part of the WorkSafe inquiry into the ag industry, which, by the way, was instigated because 15 deaths had happened in 16 months in Western Australia in the last sort of 1.5 years, which is appalling. It seemed that productivity was coming before safety, and I think everyone was just overstressed and overstretched. I think it's time to slow down now and take a step back, and we have the technology, we have the machinery. Our most important assets in any business are the people, so we actually really need to just take that step back and acknowledge that and put the resources in where necessary, but it's the people that are the most important asset.
Now, Maree, you haven't just tripped over and stumbled into the studio today to record the episode of the Grow Better podcast with us. We're here to talk about a new partnership between CSBP and Safe Farm WA. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to share that the CSBP and Safe Farms WA partnership is going to kick off and will be kicking off. And we were approached by CSBP a little while ago to see if there was something that CSBP could do to help Safe Farms. And there were 3 options provided, and CSBP actually came up with and said, which one's the game changer? So very, very proudly, part of this is that the CSBP funding for the next 3 years will be to support developing the Safe Farms system, which has been tried and tested for 4 years, to develop it into an app. So an app costs money, and the support of CSBP is one, validating that Safe Farms is out there doing lots of good things, and will provide the credibility to industry. So we're really, really excited and proud of that. And I think for the impact to growers, this is a game changer, that it will be quite simple, effective. I won't say easy because safety can't be easy, just on principle, but effective and simple to pick up and use, and anyone can use it on a phone or a tablet, so it'll be doing the inductions. It's the whole system that Safe Farm has now available through its website and to members, but it will just make it that much more accessible out in the field. One, there's no excuse to people not doing things, but two, I think it will increase productivity. And we mentioned earlier about businesses with safety systems are up to 38% more productive, and that's some empirical university research. And if you use the 1%er of, it's a banking rule of thumb, a 1%er of an increase in productivity can impact your operating surplus, your pre-tax spending, by up to 10%. This is where the game changer is huge, and that support of CSBP to help farmers and growers and possibly even service providers to industry, the impact of that could be 5 or 10%. So their productivity will not just be impacted from growing more stuff, it's actually more outputs. And that in itself, and the gift that sort of pays forward to growers, is huge.
And look, I love that sentiment, and I think at CSBP we have a strong legacy in safety in industrial sites and all of our operations, and that's instilled in us, in our roles at West, all across the West Farmers Group, and in particular at CSBP and our sites in Kwinana and around the state. And it's great that we can think about it through the productivity lens you've just given us as well, because we also love thinking about the work that we do and how it can benefit the productivity of West Australian growers, and that's just a nice angle for us to think about how we can play our role in supporting this partnership. So look, great to hear that it's a potential good news story, and we really hope it will be a successful partnership. If I can be cheeky, do you think it's targeting the 30 or the 70? Where is this? How's Safe Farms thinking about this development in making these farm safety systems more accessible, I suppose?
I think it's everybody. So it'll make those 70 even better, and it'll bring those 30% up sort of thing. So I think it has the opportunity to improve efficiency, conversations, communication, because a lot of safety is communication and vice versa. And I do think that if we play to our strengths and thinking of that 70% being really good and doing what they do well, that will just increase the productivity of the industry, but it will ensure people are more safe. And then, yes, that 30% bring them not kicking and screaming anymore, but offering them something that's easy, simple, doable, and tangible as well.
It's a wonderful sentiment, Maree, and we're really pleased to be able to partner with Safe Farms WA, and we look forward to working with you for the next 3 years at least to help make this a reality. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Safe Farms WA, on behalf of the board and everybody there and the members, because I know they're excited because quite a number of people are saying, why don't you do an app? Well, it's going to be really wonderful to be able to say we have the support of CSBP to do that for 3 years. So that's a long-term partnership, and the board are very, very excited.
Great to hear. That's really wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Maree, and thank you all out there for joining us in CSBP Grow Better podcast land. As always, jump on our socials at CSBP Fertilisers to subscribe, rate, review, and keep in touch with all the other things we're up to at CSBP. But for now, I've been Grey Johnston, been joined by Maree Gooch. Thank you, Maree. See you all out there. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the CSBP Grow Better podcast. For more information about CSBP, please visit csbp-fertilisers.com.au or connect with us on social media at CSBP Fertilisers on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn.